Welcome back to the Makers of MidCity podcast. I'm your host, Clark Dunn.
And I'm Lindsay Patillo-Keene, Executive Director of MidCity District.
Yeah, and today we have the opportunity to sit down with Sierra Peña of gener8tor. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So your journey here to Huntsville, you've only been here for about a year. Talk a little bit about your journey from Austin, Texas here to Huntsville and kind of what your background is in.
Yeah, so actually just for more context, like Clark said, I'm Sierra Peña. I'm the gBETA director for Huntsville, Alabama. And my journey moving from Austin to Huntsville is kind of a random one. I am a former founder. Actually, my journey started as in a farmer's market, much similar to what you guys host at MidCity. I once upon a time had a business and kind of the farmer's market space. It evolved into a venture-backed company, went through kind of the ups and downs of being a founder. And, I guess you could call me a well-seasoned failed founder. But this opportunity came up and I really saw a lot of potential and seeing Huntsville as a startup in of itself. I wanted to be involved in the mission with MidCity. So
yeah. And prior to coming here to Huntsville, did you know anything about Huntsville? Had you seen anything about it? Have you ever visited it, or was it all completely new?
Well, ironically, I was in Huntsville about a year before I moved to Alabama. And it was because my mom, she works for the government and she was thinking about moving to Huntsville. So I decided to take a trip with her. Knew absolutely nothing about Huntsville. And we always joke about it because we're like, okay, like you were in Huntsville the year before. She was going to move to Huntsville and then somehow I ended up here. So also my little sister moved to Birmingham. So we're bringing the whole family to Alabama.
There you go. I love it. And so for those that maybe don't even know what gener8tor is, what is gener8tor?
So gener8tor is a venture capital firm. The essence is, we invest in startups all over the nation. Specifically in Huntsville, we host 2 accelerator programs, one of them being Spark, which is a free 7-week program where we help companies go from idea to minimum viable product. And then we have gBETA, which is also a free 7-week accelerator where we help businesses that are post-product pre-revenue go from that to earning their first dollar. So we're really trying to, enable all founders from idea all the way through earning their first dollar and going on to raise their first dollar in venture capital. We really want to be there every step of the way. And how we kind of insert ourselves into Huntsville is through our amazing partners, the Apollo Coalition. Now, I think we renamed it.
That's right.
We really want to focus on kind of creating or not creating, but inspiring people here to turn their passions into opportunities for themselves. And we're focused not just in Huntsville, but really of all of North Alabama, while also centralizing all activity back to Huntsville, specifically MidCity.
And talk a little bit, Lindsay, just about that collaboration between the Apollo Coalition and gener8tor, and kind of what this and how MidCity kind of is playing that role and kind of being that place that helps foster the entrepreneurial spirit that gener8tor is helping create.
Yeah. When MidCity became a project, when it was officially a flag in the ground for us to get this whole project, this 140 acres off and running, we knew that it was buildings and we knew that it was physical space. But more importantly, our founders, Max and Remy, knew that these buildings are, the infancy of them is the idea. And so where do we meet and how do we foster people and incubate and accelerate ideas so that we're not just wondering where the businesses are, we're wondering, we're We're a part of the kindergarten through MBA level of an idea. So we partnered with gener8tor, starting in 2018 is when we initiated the partnership. And here we are in 2025, where it is a blossoming, fantastic operation where people are feeling supported, where ideas are being incubated and accelerated through Sierra's input and knowledge. And now these businesses are not only opening, and the ideas aren't necessarily always starting here, but they're landing here. And people are moving here because of the expertise of Sierra and her team. So then here comes MidCity saying, how can we support and incubate your ideas through our connections in the community, through financial means, through the partners that we work with. So Sierra and her team are the reason why people are staying in town and moving to town, because these ideas are being properly handled and addressed. And so you're not a founder, without guidance. And that is why this program and Sierra have done such a fantastic job in supporting those ideas and supporting those making sure that it's a structured program of how to succeed in the business world and in the entrepreneur world. Yeah. And major kudos to Sierra and Rochelle and the gener8tor and gBETA teams for making this happen.
And I'll kind of add on to that. So when I first moved to Huntsville, and this is very much like an approach I would tell all startups to do, you need to understand the landscape. You need to understand the problem at hand, right? So when I first moved here about a year ago, I made it a point to ask Lindsay and ask Max, Remy, Jeremiah, who I should be talking to in Huntsville. Who are like your top 10 people I should be connected with in Huntsville? And I think I created like a list of, there had to have been like 25, 30 people that were in this kind of entrepreneurial space. So I set out to talk to every single one of those, just one of those people, to really understand the Huntsville landscape and what it is I was walking into. And what I learned and what I was so amazed with was the fact that Huntsville has so many resources for founders. There are so many resources in Huntsville, but they're kind of fragmented. I think over the last year, we've really, gener8tor and the Apollo Coalition have really worked on being that kind of connector between all of these different organizations. And a great example is with our initiative, the Sweet Home Alabama grant, where we relocated 4 founders and 2 companies to live in Huntsville, actually to live in Metronome. So we paid for 1 year's worth of free rent, but that initiative would have never taken place if we hadn't partnered with the folks out in Decatur, the East Center, along with the support of RCP and Willow Properties, to really
Willow
make
Bridge.
This happen.
Let me reiterate this. This is crazy and amazing. Because of Sierra's work, founders are able to live rent-free for a year, so they can financially reroute their resources to founding their companies rather than paying for rent. And that was through a grant that you and the teams, our teams collaboratively figured out and executed. That is a massive win. That if you want to show that entrepreneurs have the support of Alabama and of Huntsville, pay their rent. That is unbelievable. And so it's walking the walk and talking the talk. It's all of this. And that was a huge announcement. Major kudos.
Yeah, and those founders were actually down in here when I was getting set up, and I was talking to them because they had been here on the last podcast shoot, and they were like, "Hey, we saw the podcast, and we've actually getting ready to start our own upstairs because we see, what you all are doing and what you're doing here at MidCity." And I think that is a testament just to that entrepreneurial spirit and also the ecosystem that's been created. Because like conversations like that would have never happened unless y'all have been laying the groundwork
Mm-hmm.
in your roles and in your role, Lindsay, just to make this place, make Huntsville just this incredible, diverse ecosystem of entrepreneurs. And I think the idea of founders, and there's so much support for founders here, often gets overshadowed with just the fact that there is so much GovCon founders, and like that's a great ecosystem here in Huntsville. But there is so many founders that aren't in the GovCon realm that are doing some pretty cool and unique things here in Huntsville. You mentioned a little bit about just the expertise that Sierra brings to the work that you do. How much of it do you think is due in part with your entrepreneurial background? And how much do you kind of use the lessons you've learned to kind of help these founders as they're going through this program?
I mean, I'd say 100% of it is. I really hope that the founders going through my program never make the same mistakes that I did. I want to make it just a little bit easier for them. But yeah, just, I guess, a little bit more context on kind of like the venture landscape and what it is being a founder in Huntsville, actually what it's like being a founder in general. It's a really lonely journey. And it's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about building community, because as in Huntsville is because it is a lonely journey. People don't have, and again, in a community that is less matured than like one like Austin, for instance, you don't have people you could call and hit up and be like, hey, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. I need advice. I want to be that person. gener8tor wants to be that organization for you. And if we can't be that organization, if I can't be that person, I could connect you with the right person. So it's not just about us being kind of that resource. It's about connecting our founders and makers to the right people in this community.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just too, because I think it's often not just what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And I think that is the element that gener8tor helps the most with, is because you're getting these founders to come here to Huntsville, to plant roots here in Huntsville. They know what they do. They know who they serve most of the time. They know what the expertise they have, but they don't know anybody within the community. And that is, I would almost care to say that it is 90% of the whole thing, is actually who it is that you're connected with in the community. And that idea of being on a lonely island, I mean, I think there's no golden ticket if you get success in your venture to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's no like, oh, hey, you actually finally got funding and you did it by yourself. Well, here's an additional amount of money. Like that's never going to happen. So why wait till that last moment, or why go through that journey alone? And I think that's exactly what gener8tor is here to is striving to accomplish. As you've seen over the past year, has there been any cool or unique founder stories that come to mind? And or even if it's not even just the story itself, it's the product or the service that they are providing.
So one of my favorite companies, they went through our last gBETA cohort called Fluvio. They are actually, I don't know if you know Duolingo at all.
Okay,
the language learning app. They are basically Huntsville's version of that.
Wow.
They raised the largest Kickstarter campaign, so about 1.2 million. They recently launched their app. I think they launched their app literally a few weeks ago and are generating over $100,000 in MRR, monthly recurring revenue.
Wow.
Not only that, they have 1 million plus YouTube subscribers, and I think have already raised around like 900K in funding, and that's all happening right here in Huntsville.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I think how do you as you're kind of seeing like these grants that are bringing people here to the Metronome to live, the impact that you're doing, how do you continue to look at as 2025 is just now beginning? What do you kind of see the 2025 landscape looking like for gener8tor, as well as the overall landscape for entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ventures here in Huntsville and as well as North Alabama?
Well, look, like I think last year was very much, let me figure out what I'm working with. Like I said, I'm still new to Huntsville. I'm still trying to figure things out. But last year was very much like, who is who and how could we partner? What I would hope for gener8tor and the Apollo Coalition and MidCity is a lot more focus on partnership, collaboration. And as they say, it takes a village, right? And I really think over the next 12 months, we're going to focus on those partnerships, working together as a community to make an impact. So yeah.
Yeah. And if, we've talked a lot about, the different, the grants, the generator as a whole, Spark, and some of the other initiatives. If someone's listening and they are wanting to actually, learn more about any one of the particular things that we've talked about, or they are having a venture themselves and they want to be a part of it, where's the best place to connect with Generator, connect with you, and be a part of this entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, check out our website. I host office hours. My little office hour link is on the website itself. Otherwise, we're going to kick this back up, but we typically have co-working days at the Starbucks every Thursday from 12 to around like 5 p.m. So we're going to kick those off again starting next month. So they could find me there every Thursday.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to have all the information in the episode notes. One last thing that kind of is interesting, and I think Lindsay will bring good perspective to this, is not only, we've heard a little bit from Sierra of what she hopes Generator is able to accomplish, this year moving into the next 12 months, after you got your first year under your belt. What do you hope Generator is able to accomplish and kind of the impact MidCity is going to play in that role moving forward? Because I think, we are only, 30% of the way, 40% of the way into the actual build out of MidCity, and you've already had this impact. What do you hope that continues to look like in the near future?
I think Sierra has done a fantastic job of connecting what entrepreneurship means to the general public in this town. Like you mentioned, we're not in Austin, we're not in the Bay Area, we're not in Silicon Valley. Some of this stuff could be a little bit foreign to a lot of people that aren't versed in what venture capital is, aren't versed on these terms. So it's an education that will continue to push. People are familiar with Shark Tank. These are ideas that are being seen through. I think people can connect with entrepreneurship and then discovering what it means to them. So maybe you're not a founder, but you can be a mentor. Maybe you're not a mentor, but you can be an attendee at an event and enjoy stimulating conversation with entrepreneurs. Just engaging more with more people and educating our Huntsville community on what entrepreneurship is. It doesn't need to be, oh, that's not me. That is someone else. I get it. Maybe I don't. That's not my territory. I think there can be a lot of really interesting conversations because I don't care what industry you're in, if it's government, food, hospitality, biotech, you've had an idea. The question is, should you see it through? And that's why Generator exists. That's why Sierra has moved here. That's why the team is here. That's why MidCity is supporting this idea and this partnership. So engage and continue to engage and educate. And Sierra is going to lead that charge and will continue to lead that charge. So I'm just encouraging everyone to lean in and utilize the resources that we have here.
Yeah, and I think Huntsville is a community, and what I've seen over, being, I guess, a founder of a company myself, is that Huntsville's a community that's willing to help and support you. You just have to be willing to ask.
100%.
And it's easy to get in your bubble, especially when you're starting something from it's your baby. It's something that you've created from the ground up, and you want to gatekeep it a little bit. But I think in a community like Huntsville and an ecosystem that Huntsville has created, and Huntsville is continuing to develop and evolve, being willing to ask for support and having these networks of organizations like Generator that can help further the mission. And like Lindsay mentioned, it's not just, hey, I have an idea. It's, hey, maybe you are a founder it's a 10 years in and you're seeing success. How can you give back to the people that are at step one? I think it's always looking ahead of who's ahead of you and getting their advice, but also once you're in that position, looking back and seeing who you can also help. But I appreciate you being here today. I think I've learned so much more about what Generator is doing, and I think the impact that you've had in the first year, I think this next year will outdo that by tenfold. We'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes, but I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sierra.